This is Retirement Keys with Anthony Congemi from Crescent City Retirement Group. When a part of your financial strategy is out of tune, your long-term goals, your retirement savings, and your legacy can all suffer. With many years of experience in the financial industry, Anthony provides his clients and prospects with the information they need regarding Social Security, retirement income planning, wealth management, and much more. Listen in as we address your financial concerns and provide helpful solutions to put you on the path to achieving your retirement goals. And now, here is Retirement Keys with your host, Anthony Congemi.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Retirement Keys. My name's Anthony Congemi with Crescent City Retirement Group, and we really appreciate you tuning in today. I have a couple of folks with me today joining us. Of course, our fabulous co-host, Tony Shore, is with us. And we also have Brad Carr, one of the advisors in our office that works with our clients in their retirement endeavors. So we appreciate you guys being with us today.
All right. Yeah, great to be here. I'm excited. How about you, Brad?
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me, Anthony. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be a great show. Today's show is going to be on retirement prepared. Is your retirement prepared for a bear market? So it's going to be, I think, a really good show and probably a timely show. You know, the stock market has always been volatile, and it's about as unpredictable as things that can come out of your great uncle's mouth at the Thanksgiving dinner table. For the last 8.5 years, we've enjoyed one of the largest ever bull markets. While this streak has been great for investors, it's also important to prepare for the day that gravity inevitably brings the flying stock prices back down to earth. So is your retirement ready for another bear market? So I think it's going to be a good show, Tony. I'm excited about it. And I want to just tell all of our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in every Sunday morning. We really appreciate you tuning in. You know, we do a lot of our retirement workshops, and inevitably at our workshops, we always have a good many people from the workshops listen to the show, and so we really appreciate you coming out. And we hope that you, if you haven't done that, and come to one of our retirement planning workshops, that you will do that. So, Tony, very good. I think we're going to have a good show today.
Well, I think it's going to be a great show, obviously, because we have guest host Brad Carr on the show with us again this week, and I think that's fantastic. Brad, you always add some wisdom and help educate us. And, you know, bear markets and markets, it can get crazy out there. This is a really important topic, I know, because we've been, like you said, we're in the longest bull market, and we've been riding this high for almost 10 years now, and everybody's wondering when that other shoe will drop, right?
Well, yeah, and you can go back even farther than that to 30 years ago to Black Monday. I don't know if you remember it, but it was October 19th, 1987. Stock markets all around the world just plummeted. The Dow fell 22.6%. That's about a 5,000-point drop from today's current levels. But it was the single worst day in Wall Street history. It's a good example why you need to be prepared, because you just never know when that's going to happen. Now, but let's be honest, they're not saying that we're going to have a repeat of that Black Monday, but they're also not saying that we're going to have a bear market, right around the corner. But we just need to be aware that a bear market, it's just a normal ebb and flow of the market. It's always going to go up and down, and we just need to be prepared for that. But Anthony, define what a bear market is. Tell them what a bear market is.
Well, according to the Neb Davis research from 1900s through 2013, 123 market corrections have happened, and that's about one per year. Meanwhile, there are 32 bear markets during that time, and that's about one out of every 3.5 years. So typically, a bear market is defined as when the given market declines at least 20% of its peak, while a market correction is a fall of about 10%. So about 20% off of its peak is what, most analysts would consider a bear market. And, we talk a lot about bulls and bears and all this. And frankly, with the retirement planning, if you have an investment strategy that really considers the fact that there certainly could be a pullback, and you've got your assets organized in a way to where you don't have all your eggs in one basket. You have, and we talk a lot about the three aspects to any investment strategy: liquidity, income, and growth. And so if you've got things set up properly, even a correction doesn't have to derail a retirement plan. It absolutely shouldn't derail a retirement plan if things are set up correctly.
Right. So how often do bear markets happen?
Well, according to the CNBC article, 8 things you need to know about bear markets, the market has recovered its value within an average of 10 months after a correction. The average bear market lasts about 15 months. The most recent bear market was from October 2007 to March 2009, which was 17 months. So,
wow. So they can last a little while, but that's not, I guess it's, if they last even a couple of weeks, it's bad, right?
Absolutely. It's and especially bad if you're not prepared for it and if you don't have a strategy for it. Then, you sometimes people make rash decisions. They're, all of a sudden, they feel like, the sky's falling. They don't have a proper distribution strategy. So then it can be very worrisome.
Right. And I think that makes sense. And now, obviously, we want to be prepared for when this does happen. And I know we're going to talk about that a little bit more, but our time is almost up for this first segment of the show. Anthony, do you have anything you want to add?
I do. I first of all would like to say that if you don't have that plan, if you don't have a formal retirement plan, by all means, you should start thinking about putting one together, having a retirement counselor, our firm or another firm, but start putting a plan together, have that investment strategy. I really, as I mentioned earlier on in the show, we do retirement classes, we do retirement workshops every month. Call into our office, register for one of the workshops. We'd love to show you what type of plans we do. They're very straightforward, as you know. We cover 5 key topics: estate and legacy planning, healthcare planning, and investment strategy, income planning, and tax strategies. And we really believe those are the 5 retirement keys to having that stress-free retirement. But if you don't have a formal plan, I'd encourage you to take advantage of this special offer. You've been listening to our shows and advice on getting your finances in order and creating a retirement income plan that will last. Now is the time to take advantage of our special offer. This is Anthony Kangemi with Crescent City Retirement Group, and we're now offering our 3-step retirement planning process at no cost and a $100 gift card to the restaurant of your choice upon completion of the planning process. Call Crescent City Retirement Group within the next 20 minutes at 504-828-2171. That number again is 504-828-2171.
And welcome back to Retirement Keys with Anthony Kangemi and our guest host, Brad Carr. I'm your co-host, Tony Shore, and today we're talking about bear markets and asking the question, is your retirement prepared for a bear market? And Anthony and Brad, in the first segment, you talked about a number of things, how we're into our 10th year of a bull market, how often corrections and bear markets happen, and what can cause them. And now that we've talked a little bit about these market corrections and bear markets, let's talk about what they mean to us, to our listeners, for the average investor out there, for myself. How do we approach this?
Well, there's a lot of things, very important things to talk about. Statistically, we should be due for another bear market anytime. Usually it's on an 8-year cycle. We're well beyond that 8th year, but it'd be silly to think that a bull market is going to last forever. What you don't want to do is to make permanent decisions regarding a temporary situation, and that's really what a bear market, what a bull market is a temporary situation. And more than ever, it's important to be fundamental when it comes to your investments. Psychology is favoring a bear market. It means fewer investors are willing to bet that stocks will continue to grow. When with public companies like Netflix and Tesla and so forth, it's really impossible also to guess when you're at the bottom of a correction. It's just really difficult to time the market that way. You really should be betting what you think will happen over the medium to long term, not just a little snapshot, but over 2 years, 5 years, 10 years in your retirement. What's going to happen to the market? And if you look back historically, yes, there are corrections. Yes, there are bull and bear markets, but overall, the market has continued to grow, continued to everyone has continued to prosper.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's so true, Brad. And at the end of the day, there's a lot to be said for being invested in some high quality stocks, those big blue chip stocks, those U.S. companies that we love so much here, and well balanced portfolios. We're a big fan of that, and it's a big part of a retirement plan, but it can't be the whole part. You need that investment strategy, that liquidity for emergencies, that structured income plan for your strategy for income, and then your growth portfolio. So that way in retirement, if the market does pull back, it should not affect your liquidity, your emergency money. It shouldn't affect your structured income. So it's just having that investment strategy, Tony, that's so important inside of your retirement plan to make it work.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's huge. And speaking of retirement, what do you say to people who are near retirement and what a bear market could mean for them?
Well, one smart move you should make now is to ensure that your assets are still properly allocated in regards to your tolerance of risk. You never want to end up in a situation where you haven't been regularly rebalancing your portfolio and that you've been investing more aggressively than you realize or that you're comfortable with. To ensure that you're not taking on more risk that you intend to, it's important to confirm that your savings invested in the retirement accounts fits your desired risk tolerance. In order to see how much risk you're comfortable with, you can take what we call our COMRA, our Color Money Risk Analysis. It's 11 questions surveyed, and it really looks at your assets and your financial picture and provides a roadmap to your overall risk preference. Once you've done your score, we can begin looking at your savings and actually how they're allocated today and make sure that everything is lining up properly with your risk tolerance. So this COMRA, this Color of Money Risk Analysis, or these 11 questions, if you will, really help us, and it goes a long way. It's 11 questions, so it's very, very easy to get done, but it's so accurate, and it really shows your risk tolerance, what you're comfortable with. And it could be a score anywhere from 0 to 100. Somebody that scores in the 20s and 30s are going to be a more conservative investor. They don't want a lot of volatility, and they should be invested appropriately. Somebody maybe from 30 to 50 or 30 to 60 would be more moderate, more of kind of a balanced, and then, of course, over 60 might be more aggressive. But take the 11-question risk tolerance questionnaire, this COMRA, and it really will go a long way in helping us figure out what your actual risk tolerance is.
Well, yeah, and figuring that out is really good. I know you've talked about the Color of Money Risk Analysis, and it sounds like a smart approach to make sure our assets are in a good spot, regardless of the state of the market. So what's another tip you'd give to people who are wanting to make sure that their retirement is going to be secure for that inevitable bear market?
Well, I think it's really important to just weed out any investments that you've acquired along the way. We encounter people who have added this investment, that investment, here and there over time, but now they realize that maybe that's not quite a good enough fit for their long-term investment strategy. What could be a better idea is really to do a little pruning, just do a little thinning out in your investment portfolio, and just streamline those positions, so you won't end up heading into a market downturn with really a lot of unwieldy, assorted investments that really don't fit your overall retirement plan.
Yeah, and I would imagine, Anthony, that what Brad's saying there is, you have to look at, I know that you've talked to me about this, about my portfolio, and when you look at it and say, hey, you're in this fund and this fund and this fund, but they all have some of the same stocks. So the buying and the selling might offset each other. So you're really not in a good position, and you can, with a second opinion, streamline some of that, right?
Oh, absolutely. And you know, and as Brad was saying as well, that, you know, you don't want to duplicate. You don't, and you want a purpose. I mean, each of the investments that you're in should be solving for something, for some purpose inside of the portfolio, whether it be income, whether it be growth, whether it be liquidity, whether it be safety. But there should be some purpose to why you're investing and how the investments work together, Tony. To your point, you know, we don't want investments duplicating or contradicting each other. It would be like, you know, taking medication, and doctors prescribe medication, and it solves one problem, but then creates another problem. So we want to make sure that we have the appropriate investments, but that they are working in harmony. And that's what the color of money process is, and getting organized. You know, a quick example. You know, you may have some after-tax money. You may have some pre-tax money. You may have some Roth money. You know, there's all sorts of different types of accounts, and the investments within the accounts, and making sure that the investments within the accounts are working together in harmony for a retirement plan. And I'll tell you, you would be surprised, you know, when we start organizing these assets and really looking at things closely, how in a lot of cases you can really fine-tune what you have and work with what you have and really create a much better situation for retirement, for a tax strategy, for income than what would have been just by being in a big mix of investments that really aren't complementing each other, Tony.
Yeah, good point. And I think that that's really a great advice, and obviously getting our risk managed and looking at where our own personal risk tolerance is. That's great. We use the color of money. Now, unfortunately, our time is coming to an end for this segment. Anthony, is there anything you want to add before we take another quick break here?
Well, I just want to thank you for tuning in to Retirement Keys. As I say, we do our dinner seminars every month. Call the office at 504-828-2171. You're welcome to register. It's complimentary. Additionally, if you don't have a formal retirement plan, or if you have a retirement plan and you would just like to compare, just make a comparison or get a second opinion on your retirement, take advantage of this special offer. You've been listening to our shows and advice on getting your finances in order and creating a retirement income plan that will last. Now is the time to take advantage of our special offer. This is Anthony Kangemi of Crescent City Retirement Group, and we're now offering a complimentary gourmet dinner and retirement planning workshop, The 5 Keys to a Stress-Free Retirement. This is one workshop you won't want to miss. Call in the next 20 minutes for this no-cost offer. Seating is limited. Call Crescent City Retirement Group within the next 20 minutes at 504-828-2171. That number again is 504-828-2171.
And welcome back to our final segment for this episode of Retirement Keys with our host, Anthony Kangemi, and guest host, Brad Carr. I'm your co-host, Tony Shore, and we've been talking about that inevitable bear market out there that's looming on the horizon and how we can prepare our investments for it. Anthony and Brad, you talked about how we're well into basically our 10th year of a bull market and how often corrections and bear markets happen, some of the causes, and really having the right approach when it comes to our investments and our asset allocation. It's really important for our assets to be properly aligned and make sure they're aligned with our risk tolerance, our own personal risk tolerance. Everybody's different. Now, maybe you could tell us more about how people can take steps to protect their savings from big losses.
There's really no way to fully protect your investment portfolio from all types of risk during the stock market cycles. You can, however, take steps to ensure that your assets are diversified, as we talked about earlier, so that any hit you may take will not be detrimental to your retirement. I highly advise working with a trusted financial professional who can help provide you with sound investment advice and take a look at your unique situation. Since no two individuals or families or investment portfolios are alike, and no bear markets are exactly identical, it helps to have a professional on your side that is able to determine the proper investment strategy for you, whether that means investing conservatively, moderately, or even more risky, depending on the person. But I would just say having that investment strategy. When we think about our retirement plans, we're very methodical here. And when you come in to our office, you will see that we're very methodical. We want to talk about the five key areas to a stress-free retirement. Wrote a book on that very topic. It's published on Amazon, but I want to send you a free copy of our book, The Keys to a Stress-Free Retirement. But that's our mantra. What are the things that can affect your retirement? And we think there are five key areas. It's estate and legacy planning, healthcare planning, an investment strategy, which we've been talking about in this show, income planning, and tax strategies. And those five key areas, we believe, if you really put some thought into it, and again, no two families are the same or investments are the same, but those pillars, those five key elements to a sound retirement plan, I think can't be overstated.
Yeah, and that makes sense. So, Brad, what's another tip that you have for us?
Well, Anthony touched on the 5 points, the 5 keys. One, in my mind, the most important is the income plan. Sometimes a typical traditional financial professional will say, well, just take out 4% a year and you can adjust that up or down. What Anthony does in his retirement plan, in the income strategy portion of his retirement plan, he'll tell you, he calculates what your income is going to be from whatever source it might be: Social Security, pension, 401k, IRAs, and so forth, out to age 100. And it is very detailed. I mean, it is very, very specific, very detailed, very accurate. And that's really what people are looking for. They want to know what they can count on for income every month. What can they live on? As far as the stock market, you can't rely on the good times to last forever, but you can find comfort when you have a plan that shows you, this is what I'm going to have as my income every year out to age 100.
Yeah, and I think that's really good to understand. Now, are there any other tips out there that you want to discuss?
Well, I'd just like to say the importance and to remind you to not get too hung up on how the market is doing. While it's important to pay attention to the degree of damage that a bear market inflicts, it's also important to remember what happens in the aftermath, particularly that stocks have a good chance to recoup the losses suffered in the downturn. It may sound cheesy, but write yourself a note or do whatever might help you to keep your cool during a down market. It's easy to be optimistic during a bull market, but you will want to be reminded that everything is okay in the future when you might feel frazzled or nervous when stocks may be heading for a potentially disastrous bear market. It may be smart to take a suggested cooling off period or waiting at least a week before making any decisions to sell, no matter how strong the impulse may be. And I would just encourage you, if you're in a well-established growth portfolio and it's well-balanced and it's not duplicating a bunch of, it's all the stocks inside of the portfolio and the funds are all working together and it's in a harmonious portfolio and the market is down, it's not the time to be selling, obviously. But if you have that structured income plan in place that's separate from that portfolio and you have the liquidity that you need for emergencies, then why hit the panic button and sell a perfectly, well-balanced portfolio? I mean, you just wouldn't do it. The reason why people hit the panic button and do something like that is because, in my mind, the problem is they don't have an investment strategy. They don't have the liquidity, the structured income. They've got the growth portfolio. They've got too much on that side of it, and then they hit the panic button. So let's make sure we have an investment strategy where we know exactly where our income is coming from, where our emergency needs are coming from, then we can have this growth portfolio where those dividends are being reinvested. We can rebalance, grow the money, and just have a well-balanced approach to investing, Tony.
Yeah. Great advice, both of you, Anthony and Brad. Now, we are almost out of time for today's show. Is there anything else you want to add, Anthony, before we have to go?
Well, I just want to thank you all for listening. I really appreciate you here with us every week. Tony and Brad is really, a great addition to the show, and we just thank you all for listening each Sunday, whether you're headed to church or coming back from church or wherever you might be, going to the park, spending time with the family. We just thank you for tuning in and taking some time out and getting familiar with our investment strategy and retirement planning. And I would just encourage you. We have many events coming up between now and the end of the year. Tax planning should be done prior to December 31st. So this is a great time closing out toward the end of the year to get together and get organized as it relates to your retirement planning, your tax strategy, your investment strategy, your income planning. All of that's included in the retirement plan. So I would just encourage you, if you don't have it all laid out, you'd like to get a second opinion, please take advantage of our offer.
Thank you for listening to Retirement Keys. Don't pay too much for taxes or retire without a sound income plan. For more information, please contact Anthony Congemi at Crescent City Retirement Group. Call 504-828-2171 or visit the website at crescentcityretirement.com. All matters discussed during this show are for informational purposes only. Each individual situation may vary, and the opinions expressed here may not apply to everyone. Materials presented are believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations can be made as to its accuracy. All ideas and information should be discussed in detail with one of our qualified representatives prior to implementation. Anthony Congemi and Crescent City Retirement Group are not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency.